Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Great. Okay, so I'm Sandra Yuen. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, I guess. I'm an artist, a writer. I've done a bit of documentary film, and I do public speaking. I'm also a musician. I play the drums in a band, I do a band. So if I want to thank Connection Salon, first of all. And so when I was asked to really talk about this, I really had to think and process who is Sandra and what is her art really about. So my journey has really been about channeling my thoughts, emotions, ideas, experiences, and my struggles into a positive entity, which is my art. So I think I'm a visual artist first and foremost of all the other things I do. And I'll talk about different themes in my art, and then we'll do questions after that. If you could give me a 2 minute warning, it'd be great. Thanks, Kay. Okay, so I was born Virgo in 1965. I was a child that was very nonverbal, very shy. I felt ethically different in a predominantly white neighborhood. And my father was an architect, so he had a studio on the top floor where he did his drawings, a drafting table. And he asked me to sit by his drafting table, and he said, "Draw something." So I draw a little thing, draw pictures and things. And so one day I drew a horse with one continuous line. He said, "That's pretty good, Sandra." So he always encouraged me to do my art, and he was my first art critic. Okay. So my personality traits, being a Virgo, I was very self-critical, kind of perfectionist, um, restless, kind of anxious a little bit, and had low self-esteem, very introverted. And then in my youth, I started to become ill around age 14. I started to have symptoms of mental illness. And at age 15, I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. So that's having like believing that there's conspiracies against you, having delusions, hallucinations, and just not being in touch with the real reality. So that's how it was for a while. And I was very ill for a long time. I'm still recovering, still on medication. And so this drawing is when I was in the throes of mental illness. My second hospitalization in 1980, and one of the first self portraits I did was this drawing. So I kept it all these years. Um, and you can see one eye sort of slightly larger, just a hint of something going on. I did retouch it a bit, but that sort of it's interesting to see myself, years later, how I was at that time. Okay, so after high school, many hospitalizations in high school, I went to Langara College and I took fine art there. And that's when my real growth in my art kind of took off because you had access to materials, access to other creatives in the room. Um, and it really affected how I saw myself. It kind of started giving me an identity, something I should aim for, be an artist. I had dreams of that. And I talked to the instructor there, his name Gordon Caruso, and I said, I feel kind of lost in this class. I don't really know where I'm going with my art. And he said to me, "That's a good place to be because that means you're exploring. If you arrive, you're not. It's not good. If you're plateauing, it's not good. But if you're growing and you're open to it, that's the best place to be. Experimentation." And he also said that only 10% of that class would actually go on and be artists. So people go through these programs, but not everybody sticks with it. Um, okay, so these drawings, I'll start with some of these driftwood drawings. So they're kind of like pictures of driftwood on Parksville Beach or Raft Harbor Beach on Vancouver Island, and just using contour and not taking your pen off the page. And it's really interesting because you can't really make a mistake, right? It's either down or it's not. So these drawings are about 9 by 12. I did a series of these, and then also I did a series of paintings after them as well. So this is a larger one. That was a larger piece of driftwood there. And then so these are some of the paintings that came out of it. So using abstraction and the driftwood as a springboard, and the wood is actually alive actually. So it's not like dead wood, but wood that's actually living in a way. And there's fire in the background using textures. There's kind of a face on the left. You can kind of see there's something happening there. And so kind of that kind of thing is it. So I was really interested in the contours and the shapes of driftwood as used as an extraction kind of form. So one thing that I learned is that art can really change your sense of self, your perceptions of who you are, and how you view life. Right? So you see eyes, you see things differently. You're looking at colors, looking at things forms and moments. Like you see a photograph, you really want to get at your phone and take that picture. Yeah. So this is I did some other drawings of these are my niece when I was younger. She was, I guess she's very young at this time, and just trying to capture her character, right? That's why I think portrait is kind of telling, right? To show that kind of thing. Yeah, the one for her. So this is when she's a bit older. She's a bit of an imp, so she's a bit of some other different type of mood there. And I kind of use a flattening effect, so you're kind of looking down at the landscape. You're kind of looking across the figure. It's kind of a technique that Paul Cézanne used and other people that they change perspective, so you see different perspectives, different viewpoints in one picture. Picasso did that too, so that's yeah, another one of Lizzie. So this is Cafe Rustico. So I used to meet with my friends. We met first through the art studios, which is a program that offers art classes to people with mental illness. And we'd meet at Rustico. We have art shows. We'd draw there. We'd have coffee, get together, and really have a community. It's so important to have other artists around you to kind of feed your artistic talents and bounce things off each other. So again, ink drawings as well. This is a framer friend of ours. He would go with us to Bowen Island, and we draw and paint at a friend's place in Bowen Island. So also community is very important, right? This is a girl at the cafe. I did a drawing of her, and she became a painting. So she's I call it the lost girl because she's sort of she's at this stage in life just trying to find out where she is. That's how I felt, kind of mirrored myself. This is Raymond Chow. He was a influential painter, drawer that influenced me and gave me my first big floral show. Okay. This drawing was for the Federation of Canadian Artists down on Gravel Island. So we did a miniature series. So it's only about 7 inches wide, 5 inches high. So any drawing, if you do it right, or painting, any work of art, you should be able to blow it up to any size. It should still work compositionally. That's what I think, anyway. The drawings that I've done. Also, architecture was really important for me. I really, because my father's an architect, I was always drawn to buildings and sculpting those types of things with pen and pencil. This is the Museum of Man in Hull, Ottawa. Okay. Back to self portrait. So this is kind of the theme I think a lot of artists have, like revisiting self portraiture. You need a model; it's right there. So this is she's kind of the mirror image of herself, literally looking in her mirror. Sort of that the doppelganger effect as well. There, yeah. This is so I did printmaking at Langara College. So this one here is a lino cut. So there's a lot of vibration happening there, reflections, kind of a mosaic idea as well. It's kind of interesting to use that technique. So these are really exploratory that I did at Langara College in printmaking. Silk screens and different reliefs we did. This is really early stuff that I did, like 1980s monoprint as well, ghost print as well. Okay. So this is when I graduated from Langara. I went on to Emily Carr and UBC. I got a degree in art history, but at this time I was doing psychological portraits. So this is the the kind of the silent woman. She can't articulate what her mental illness is about. She can't articulate the angst she's feeling, the problems she's suffering. She's traumatic experiences through her psychosis, but she's kind of like painted these kind of pretty colors. So it says like the yin yang, where there's positive color, but the content is maybe more different than that. Sort of like the staring eyes and things like that. So the psychological portraits that I did. This is Soothsayer. I believe I have clairvoyant abilities, kind of Calvin Hobbes. This is Ladies of the Evening. So using a lot of color, these expressionist type of qualities. This is my brother-in-law who was reading the paper about the war in Kuwait, just capturing moments. This is a portrait of Tanya. She's looking into the window of knowledge at school. Okay, so these are landscapes I did. So just drawing on different abstractions as well, using a lot of color, important to me. I found that if you practice art regularly and focus on it, it's like a Zen moment. It's like meditation, and it's almost a form of spiritualism when you're kind of like one with the canvas, I think. So this one, it was a cover of my memoir. I wrote a memoir called My Schizophrenic Life, The Road to Recovery from Mental Illness. And the red is kind of like how my illness obliterated my life. I just want to I want to show you this book here too. Just a little promo. This book's for sale. It's called I Want to Be Buried Standing Up. It's got about 23, 24 plates of my artwork and my poetry as well, if you want to take a look later. Thank you. Okay, that's my promo. So these ones are kind of interesting. They're kind of interesting because it's a drip painting, but the drips are painted. It's kind of tongue in cheek. So it's interesting because it's kind of temporal. The letters are done with reflective paint, so that when you walk across the numbers go in and out when they kind of fade in and out when you're walking past the painting. This one's called uh, Purple Mayonnaise Takes Over North America. Because if you market anything correctly, you can sell anything, even purple mayonnaise. Gotcha. This is YVR, so kind of borrowing from landscape painting of California that I saw. So you're really going through different styles, but you can sort of see the similarity of the colors and the paint application. This is Parksville Beach, one of the landscapes we did. And this is Bruno Cote. So I kind of like borrowed from him and kind of create a painting kind of similar to his work. He's a French Canadian artist. I just like the color, I like the textures he used. And sometimes I paint over a painting. So the yellow on this painting was a painting underneath, and then I kind of developed on top of it. So really reusing the recycled materials is important, right? This is my own landscape. This is Marpole. This was an award-winning picture that I did, and it's shown several times. So kind of interesting with the purple kind of pinky sidewalk, that kind of thing. Yeah. This is 9/11, done with blocks. Okay, so kind of the irony of describing a very horrific event through children's blocks. So it's called Twin Towers. I'm not often political in my work, but this is kind of as far as I got as being political. This is artillery, kind of same kind of thing. So I use a lot of duality. So basically using a lot of two objects or two things in my pictures. So these ones I'm going to show kind of like pictures of the drawing and then the painting. Sometimes the drawing came first, sometimes the painting came first. It depends. So this is sort of my series of these. So you can just sort of see how they develop, right? And how the white becomes important as part of the composition. So really drawing on different ideas like color-free days, or this is a woman on the ferry. Took the ferry every year to Parksville, and there she is smoking a cigarette. That hangs in my bathroom. Okay. This is young and old. So she's the girl at Coombs looking at a car, and then there's the painting. So really working on both paintings and drawings consistently. Also, if I found if I was doing any kind of 3D work, it really helped me with depth if I worked on 3D work as well. So the commission I did, and then the painting kind of changed after that. More of a self-portrait, maybe, or kind of like the Asian boxer, kind of fighting with life, surviving, trying to survive her mental illness. Yeah. So when you're listening to artistic voice, it's kind of like listening to your subconscious or parts of your emotions and mind you may be out of touch with. So it's really about delving into that inner world that is existing inside yourself and not being like chained to one thing, not listening to everybody else, but just finding your own element and not getting caught up in it's got to be good enough, but just go with the flow and let it explore. Sometimes failure is part of success. This is Lookout. So basically, two girls on these rocks, and then this is the painting. So the bottle being half empty, half full, that kind of analogy. Because a lot of my work, I take these negative energies I'm feeling and put them in positive ways into music or art or writing. So that kind of thing. Again, the duality, the relationship between the girls, and this is actually in the book as well. A lot of these pictures went to the book. So this is parking meters, more of a monochromatic picture, kind of a bit interesting that one. So I got into mixed media as well. So on the right it says a disappearing city. So that's sort of where I went later on with my house portraits. So this kind of precedes that. But just using things from newspaper clippings, like Salvador was a journalist in the Courier, and that's I use that. This is House Street. This abstract lover. This so she becomes the art. So she's visiting the art. She becomes the art. And this one I used my own text and I made my own text. Yeah. Doppelganger, the third eye as well. So using like my illness as a way to express through illustration or through imagery. And just the kind of like the looking, the gaze is kind of interesting. Yeah. This one was one of the first times I used text from somebody else in a painting. So it says after all her loved ones had been repelled to a safe distance, she exploded into 1,000 pieces. So kind of analogy with mental illness, the impact of that, or being, or just oppression of different marginalized groups, like females, or be it race or whatever, and just and I use mixed media with throughout the piece by taking clippings of the text and putting them throughout the picture, and kind of create fragmentation like glass breaking. This is one of my favorite pictures. It's called Empty Green World. The man is represents the environment, and the green man, and then the rest they're not really communicating. So it's on the phone. So you really can't have a world without a good environment and communication. Is what I'm saying. I really love that picture. It's on, I think it's like Dunsmuir and Howe downtown. It's over here. So I take a lot of pictures around the city and incorporate it into my work. This one is more about a story between, about like kind of Bonnie and Clyde for me. It's like this bandit on the street runs into a naked woman and they go on adventures together. And then this kind of this third person in the middle, kind of, it just appeared, this kind of Medusa happening. This kind of freaky stuff happening, just and interesting. So I did some paintings of Horseshoe Bay, because we'd go there to Bowen Island, so that was kind of the subject matter for me. No ferry terminal, but the red chairs and the relationship between the people. So this one, it's kind of interesting. If you look closely, the original, um, the uh, the people kind of come off the canvas. They kind of like float and they vibrate. They kind of come forward. If you look at the original, I don't know if you can tell here, but it creates movement. It was just accidental. It's kind of interesting. I was able to do it. It's accidental. So that's a bit more bigger. It's a 4 foot piece. Another one for the ferry. And this one is a commission I did for Coast Mental Health for the Courage to Come Back Award, which I also received because I give back to community as an artist and writer. I also received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee medal from the Governor General in Redo Hall in Ottawa. They flew me there. I met some really exciting people. It was great. Also for contributing to society. So this one was part of a Courage to Come Back fundraiser. And this is okay. Canby and 41st before Oak Ridge was renovated, rebuilt. So this scene will not happen again because there's high rises all on the left there. But basically, focusing on the bus and just the sky and just the feel of it, I just kind of, it's interesting because there's sort of the cars are really small on the left, and kind of this kind of this eeriness, right? Kind of strange, yeah. I like city scenes, so this Davie Street using kind of ice cream colors. Yaletown Station, and there's so I did a series of the SkyTrain stations because it was COVID, right? This is kind of a bit more current, and so doing like no people, like hardly any people, like one soul there. This is Westminster Station. So using a lot of perspective, I like architecture, but also using my color palette, retaining my color palette. Boats, Nanaimo Beach, and Nanaimo Harbor, and this is Granville Island before it became populated. Granville Island, if you remember the old Granville Island. So I'll get into house portraits. So let's see what my time is. Oh, I'm over. I'm over. Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, so these are miniatures. It's like maybe 3 inches wide. These ones, and just like sketching from drawings, or I mean on site or from photographs. The gaps between represent gaps in society. So these are some of the house. So this is about the disappearing city, about um, just losing the quality of these homes, being replaced by condos. And so this is a long series I did. So basically, they look like they're like just like what they look like, but they are edited a lot to suit what I want to bring out in the picture. Like the shadows are important to me, the gaps, the solitude, the isolation is really important for me. So I really like working. They're very organized and neat. That's sort of what I like as well. A commission I did, so Commercial Drive and Eastern Vancouver. So I'll just kind of go these quick. I'm running out of time. So this is a record cover I did for one of our record albums. It's in oil. So this is yesterday. So it's about like losing your love, and it's kind of over. More of a, this is kind of interesting on wood using stains. So just trying different techniques all the time and exploring a lot of things. Like this is my version of deconstruction. So basically, I took what I believe, like identified with the bird, and rebuilt it and brought it back as something new and reformatted. So that's sort of how I see deconstruction as my own formula for that. You can sort of see the woman happening on the left. Yeah, so yeah, okay. Purpose. Yeah, I just want to give you an overview of kind of what I do. So this is my flower series. So these are large scale 4 foot pieces. This is about 40 inches. Black eyed Susan. So really dealing with like abstract backgrounds and putting the flowers in front, loving the contours, talking about healing, talking about like nature, cycle of life, seasons, Canada, nature, peonies, different colors, different forms. I love the forms, the liquidity of it. Borrowing from Georgia O'Keeffe, especially, but also my own style. Okay, peonies. Okay, this one was on banners in New Westminster, street banners, and then this one here was my biggest piece. It's 12 feet across, 4 feet high, 4 panels, and it was hard to paint because my studio is very small. You had to do 2 panels at one time. Yeah, hibiscus. That's the kind of my opus. Some other pictures, Poppy Remembrance. This is a 36-inch piece. 36 piece. So yeah. Okay. So this one here is one of my that I really love because I actually got the light. I actually figured out the light, so it took me a while, but I did establish light in that page. Okay. And that's me with my foil paintings behind me, and that's it. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. It's about relations between objects and people, right? So what in art study, art history class, it's always about comparing paintings, right? So when I put two images together, it's that tension between them. It'd be objects or people or their interactions, like the lookout with the one's looking at the other, or the girl with her arm in front of the other girl. It's all about how people relate, for sure. Thank you. So I would say 99% of my stuff is acrylic painting. Acrylic painting. I did a bit of watercolor, but I think the oils were mostly the abstracts. But yeah, I did. Sorry, I didn't mention that, but yeah, mostly acrylic. I just find it's really easy to work with, and it dries fast, and it's just like I can control it better than oils. Yeah, oils I can't. It's been difficult for me. I was trained in acrylics as well. I trained. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow. Well, I kind of divided on that because the flowers, because of the size, the scale of them, people kind of see me as a floral artist, but I kind of really like the house portraits because it's Vancouver, right? And kind of because it's kind of my family history about living here and the nostalgia and just the memories of childhood and all that stuff. So I think either one or the other, I kind of divided. Yeah, so mental illness is kind of an invisible illness. Like I'm not like Einstein, like really rageful, and I think I did touch it up a bit. I did fix I fixed one of the eyes. I did fix it, but when you're kind of that age, it's like I was young, right? I didn't really know what was going on for me. Like it's like people following me, and my parents are out to get me, and kids at school are spying on me, and but you're in hospital and they drug you up, right? And you're kind of like you're separated from all that stuff that's just like attacking you outside those walls. You feel actually safe in hospital. You feel safer there. And so I would just like I was actually at peace there because I actually was protected from all that stuff that was happening in my head. Like because they had me medicated, they were stabilizing me, and I wasn't like freaking out a lot. So I mean, I think just at that time, maybe I just felt that's what just came out at the time. I mean, I've done other paintings, but I would say most of my art is very positive in the way I create. I don't do a lot of dark, like Francis Bacon things. I don't do that. I just feel that's where I want to put it. I don't want to bring out the negative. I want to bring out something that's more positive. And I just think I don't know, man. I just felt that day that I was having a good day. I mean, I've seen people that have schizophrenia and their painting deteriorates, right? You can see them as it gets more and more like frantic and more like this. But I think for me, my energy is just that when I go to the canvas, I want to make it something organized and non-chaotic because that's where I want to be. That's my perfectionist kind of coming out, maybe. Thanks. I think it shows some sensitivity, like my age, my sensitivity, the youth of that at that time. Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I would say it's like psychological portraits when I kind of they're I mean they're a little bit edgy with the the eyes and stuff. I would say that was, and then I did like like skulls. I did the skulls and the cables. I did a lot of Egon Schiele like drawings, that kind of thing. But I think as I got more well, quote unquote, it turned to more positive, more florals, more houses that you wouldn't know that the person had an illness. You wouldn't know that they had all these things. But when I process art, um, I mean, the writing is different. The writing is about the illness, it's about anger and stuff like that. But when I go to the canvas, it's about creating something that I find appeals to me, beautiful, it's beautiful for me, or makes me feel something, or has some kind of significance for me in a good way. I don't want to go to that dark corner unless it's writing. Yeah, yeah, or music a bit. But yeah, I think it's just my tendency, I think, and I think it did get more well. I guess the art did. Other people do remark that my art became more, well art. It was like more normalized, I guess, in a way. I don't know if that's a good thing because people like the outsider kind of view of it. They want the madness, but yeah, maybe the abstracts got the most. Yeah, I think so. Well, also when I give talks, I give a lot of talks about mental health, and it's about recovery. It's about like we can do it. We can achieve even though we have an illness. It's not going to stop us from living our lives. We can still be functioning in community. We can still like do things and enjoy life and have quality of life despite all this madness, right? Madness out there, madness in here, right? So I could be on medication. I could be really like not well, but there's parts that are still good. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. So that's my message of hope, and that's what goes in the work, right? That's the whole thing. It's about being positive, and there's hope for people like us. That's kind of what I'm saying. I'm not Picasso. Picasso could change every 5 6 years. I would say it's hard for people to follow you sometimes, right? They like galleries want to put you. Okay, you're the floral artist. We only want your florals. This place. Oh, we only want this because that's for your audience is at our location. So it's really like navigating that. But I think people everybody has different tastes, right? I mean, people could see five florals, they only like one anyway. So it's like I think it's very personal. I think it's really what people would appreciate, and I just like to be free to do what I want to do. I don't want to be like categorized and just do one thing the rest of my life. It's just the way I am. That's why I choose to be multidisciplinary. That's why I do like writing and do other things because I'm just broader that way. I like to do different things. I think if you like the style, you might follow it, but then you might bring in somebody new that doesn't like flowers but likes houses, or maybe or they like something else. So it's always depends on the audience, and it depends on where I'm at, and if they coincide, that's great.